Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, can you please tell me where and what time you're watching? Thanks. When you're a kid, the world feels big but safe. It fools you into believing nothing bad can touch you in your own home, especially when the sun is shining, and the scent of summer still clings to the air like a warm blanket. I was 9 the day that illusion shattered. It happened so fast, so quietly, that even now I sometimes wonder if the silence of it is what made it so horrifying. Back then, we lived in a small, tan-colored house tucked between two larger ones on a quiet street in the suburbs of western Ohio. It was the kind of neighborhood where every lawn was mowed the same way, and everybody pretended to know everyone. My parents worked a lot. Dad did day shifts at a parts factory, and Mom was a dental hygienist who usually left before the sun came up. That day, June 12, 1998, they both headed out early, leaving me home alone for a few hours. It wasn't the first time, and I was old enough to enjoy the freedom. I remember feeling invincible that morning. I got up around 7:30, took a shower without being told, and used the strawberry shampoo I loved because it made me feel grown up. The mirror fogged up, and I drew little hearts with my finger like I always did. Then I brushed my teeth while humming the theme song from a cereal commercial and padded to my bedroom still wrapped in a towel. I picked out my favorite outfit, pink cotton shorts and a unicorn shirt with glittery letters. That outfit always made me feel confident, like I could run faster or climb higher. I grabbed a Capri Sun from the fridge and poured a bowl of chips into a plastic dish. Then I curled up on the living room couch with cartoons playing softly. The screen flickered with colors while the sun slanted through the blinds in golden stripes. It was one of those rare moments of stillness where everything felt just right. And then the phone rang. We still had a cordless landline then, beige and always charging on its cradle in the kitchen. I remember flinching when it rang. The sound was sharp, too loud compared to the mellow drone of the TV. I didn't think much of it. I figured it was my mom checking in or maybe Dad calling to say hi. I hopped off the couch and walked barefoot across the kitchen floor. It rang again. I picked it up and pressed talk. Hello? The voice on the other end was calm, warm even, like someone I should know but couldn't quite place. Hey there, sweetheart, he said, using my name like it was something he'd said 100 times. How's your morning? I paused, unsure. But the way he spoke felt safe somehow, like the dad of a friend or someone from church. It's okay. I just had breakfast, I said. He chuckled. That's nice. Still wearing your favorite shirt? I blinked. Yeah. Pink shorts too? My stomach dropped. It was such a specific thing to say and I hadn't mentioned it. Uh-huh, I replied, confused. His voice darkened just a little. You look real pretty in pink. I didn't know what to say. Something felt wrong now. The kind of wrong that tightens your chest and makes your skin buzz. What? I whispered. He laughed, low and cracked, like something splintering inside him. Then he started saying things. Awful things. Words I didn't understand fully but knew were bad. Wrong. Disgusting. I froze. My fingers clenched the phone so tight my knuckles went white. My legs felt rubbery. You like being home alone, huh? Makes it easy, he said. Nobody around to stop me from coming in. Stop it, I whispered, my voice cracking. Don't worry, sweetie. I won't hurt you. Not unless you scream. I slammed the button and hung up. For a few seconds, I stood there staring at the phone like it might ring again, like it had become something alive. Then it did ring. Once. Twice. Again. Over and over. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run but had no idea where. I called Mom at work, sobbing. Someone's watching me, I gasped. He said what I was wearing, he's going to... She cut me off. Why did you answer the phone? I told you not to. You're fine. Just go watch TV. No, Mom, he said he could come in. Sweetie, stop being dramatic. It was probably a prank. I can't leave work right now because of a prank call. Mom, please. Lock the doors, close the curtains, don't answer the phone again, that's it. Click. Her words were worse than silence. They left me completely alone. The ringing kept coming. Ring, stop, ring, stop. I crawled to the window and shut the curtain, then locked the front door and backed away. I was shaking so badly I thought I might pass out. I called 911, voice breaking. There's a man. He called me. He said he sees me. I'm alone. He said he's going to hurt me, please come. The operator stayed calm. Okay, honey, I need you to stay with me. What's your address? I told her. My words came out like water through a cracked dam. You're doing great, she said. Help is on the way. Are all the doors locked? Yes, I whispered. Is anyone else inside with you? No, just me. Okay, stay put. Do not answer the phone if it rings again. If someone knocks, do not open the door. Then I hit the alarm button near the front door, the one my dad told me never to touch unless it was serious. A siren outside wailed. I burst out the door barefoot, half sobbing. The world looked normal. Birds, cars, a man watering his lawn, but I couldn't stop shaking. A neighbor came running. Hey, are you okay? Mr. Daniels from 2 houses down jogged over. What happened? I clung to him sobbing. He said he could see me. He said he was going to get me. His expression darkened. Who? Did someone come to the house? On the phone, I cried. He knew what I was wearing. He said he could come in. Then the police. A young officer with kind eyes crouched down and asked what happened. Sweetheart, can you tell me your name? Yes, I whispered. Can you tell me what the man said? I just said over and over. He knew what I was wearing. He said he'd kill me. Then my mom pulled into the driveway. Her face calm, almost irritated. She smiled at the officer. I'm so sorry about this. She must have gotten scared being home alone. It's not usually an issue. Ma'am, the officer said, serious now. Your daughter was very frightened. If someone called and said those things, it might not be a prank. We should file a report just to be safe. Officer, with all due respect, she replied, lowering her voice. She's always had a vivid imagination. One time, she swore a tree branch was trying to get in the window. I appreciate your concern, but I think this was just a scare. The officer hesitated, then nodded. That was it. I wasn't fine. I didn't sleep properly for years. I hated phones, even cordless ones, even ones that didn't ring. I felt watched constantly. And my mother, she decided it was the neighbor boy, a shy kid who wouldn't hurt a fly. Said, maybe he got our number and thought it would be funny. I knew it wasn't him. But no one asked me. Not really. Years later, during Christmas at my sister's house, I stepped into the hall and heard my mother in the living room. Remember that time she called the cops because someone said she looked cute in pink? She said, laughing. Mom, my sister said, that wasn't funny. She was terrified. Oh, please, Mom scoffed. She was always a little dramatic. My sister found me frozen in the hallway and gently closed the door. She just told everyone about the time you thought someone was going to kill you, she whispered. Like it's funny. I still don't know who that man was. I don't know how he knew. Maybe he saw me through a crack in the blinds. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he was just passing through. But what if he wasn't? What if he never stopped watching? If you were 9 years old and someone said they could see you, really see you, would anyone believe you? I always thought fear was something you'd recognize when it came, like a sudden crash or a scream in the dark. But real fear is quieter than that. It sneaks up on you. It waits in corners. It looks like a normal Saturday night, the kind you've lived through 100 times before until something shifts. Just a little. Just enough to change everything. Back then, I was 17, living in a quiet patch of suburbia where streets had names like Dogwood Lane and Sycamore Court. Safe, neat, too predictable. A place where nothing ever really happened. My parents had lived in that house since before I was born. 2 stories, gray shutters, big backyard with a leaning oak tree we used to climb as kids. We had a golden retriever once too, but he died the year before. And since then, the yard always felt too quiet. That night started with nothing more than a gentle chill in the air, and the sharp scent of dry leaves drifting in through the kitchen screen. My parents, Mark and Rachel, had decided to go out for dinner, their 20th anniversary, which they almost forgot until Mom saw the date on the fridge calendar. My dad joked he was lucky she remembered. "You too good for a few hours?" Mom asked as she dabbed on perfume in the hallway mirror. She sounded half distracted, but there was a flicker of concern in her tone. "We're fine," I said, sitting cross-legged on the couch scrolling through my phone. "Don't burn the house down," Dad added, straightening his collar. Lily, my 13-year-old sister, looked up from her phone just long enough to roll her eyes. "We're not toddlers." I was responsible, always had been. Babysitting Lily wasn't even a job anymore. She mostly did her own thing. We planned a movie night, maybe pizza. They kissed us goodbye, told us to call if anything came up, and just like that, we were alone. I didn't know then how long that goodbye would echo in my head. The house changed when they left. Not in any big way, just quieter. Still. The kind of stillness where every creak feels louder than it should. I tossed a throw blanket over my lap and flipped through Netflix. Lily curled up at the other end of the couch with a bowl of popcorn so full it spilled over the sides. "Horror or comedy?" I asked. "Horror," she said instantly, grinning like she'd been waiting all day for this. "You always want to watch creepy stuff when they're gone." "That's the whole point," she said. "It's fun when it's just us. Besides, you're too old to be scared." "I'm not scared," I muttered, queuing up The Conjuring anyway. We settled in. For a while, everything felt normal, warm, comfortable even. I let myself get pulled into the movie, flickering lights, distant voices, a haunted house more dramatic than ours would ever be. The popcorn was buttery. The couch was soft. The night felt just like the last 100 before it, until it didn't. We heard the sound around 40 minutes in, a metallic scrape, faint at first, like keys brushing against a doorknob. I paused the movie, thinking maybe it was just part of the scene, but Lily looked at me with her eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" "I think it's the movie." Another pause. Then it came again. A sharper rattle this time. Metal against metal, like someone trying the front door. I stood up slowly. My heartbeat was already ticking up, more confused than afraid. "Mom? Dad?" I called, walking toward the hallway. No answer. I tried again, louder. "Dad, that you?" The silence that followed was thick, real. Lily stood up too, suddenly still. Why wouldn't he say something? I didn't know. My gut twisted as I stepped closer to the door. It was shut, still locked, but the knob jiggled gently, as if someone on the other side was testing it, turning it slowly, patiently. A cold edge crept under my skin. I backed away and whispered, "Stay behind me." Lily nodded, her face pale in the dim light of the TV. And then came another sound, this one from behind us. The backyard. A soft tap at the glass door that led to the patio. We both spun. The curtains were half drawn, the darkness outside pressing up against the glass like a living thing. Lily's voice barely rose above a breath. "Don't go near it." I didn't answer. I crossed to the hallway phone, grabbed the receiver. Nothing. Dead line. "What?" I said under my breath, clicking the cradle again. "Why's it dead?" Lily darted into the kitchen, mumbling, "I'm getting a knife." I stepped toward the sliding door, parted the curtain just enough to peek through. Nothing. The trees in the yard swayed gently, shadows dancing. But no figure, no face, just the night looking back. I turned toward the front hallway just in time to see the doorknob twist again, this time harder, more insistent. My pulse slammed in my ears. Lily returned, white-knuckled around the biggest knife we owned. "What do we do?" she asked. I was about to answer when it happened. A soft knock at the sliding glass door. Not loud, not rushed, just steady. 3 knocks, then silence. We ran upstairs. It wasn't even a decision, it was instinct. Our bare feet pounded the stairs and every shadow in the house seemed to twist and reach as we passed. Halfway up, we heard it, the click of the front door unlocking. We froze. That sound, too familiar, too deliberate, made my throat close. "Oh my God," Lily whispered. "Keep moving," I hissed, shoving her forward. We ducked into my bedroom and locked the door. I pushed my dresser in front of it, hands trembling. Lily called 911. Nothing. No bars. She stared at her screen. No service, no bars, nothing. I wanted to scream. Downstairs, the floor creaked. The kind of creak that only came from weight. Footsteps. Slow. Steady. Measured. Lily and I backed into the closet, cramming ourselves into the shadows. I pulled the door nearly shut, leaving the smallest sliver to see through. We didn't speak. We barely breathed. The steps reached the second floor, and then came the voice. Calm. Quiet. Almost friendly. "I know you're up here." My heart stopped. Lily choked back a sob. My grip on the knife tightened. "I'm not here to hurt you," the voice said. "I just want to talk." Another step, closer. The door rattled, locked. Then came a laugh. Soft. Amused. "Smart girls." The door shook again, then cracked. Once, twice. He was kicking it in. We couldn't run, couldn't scream, just wait. The door burst open. His boots thudded softly against the carpet. I saw the shadow under the closet door. Felt his presence like smoke slipping through the cracks. The handle turned. Light. Then his face. Not masked, not wild-eyed. Just calm. Like he belonged here. "Found you." I didn't hesitate. I lunged with the knife. It slashed his arm. He screamed, loud this time, and stumbled back. "Run!" I yelled, grabbing Lily's arm. We bolted. Down the hall, down the stairs. The front door was open wide. Cold air slammed into us as we sprinted into the night, screaming for help. Porch lights flicked on. A dog barked. A neighbor's voice rang out in the dark. By the time the cops came, he was gone. Like he'd never been there at all. Just boot prints. Just the memory. And that voice. I still hear it some nights. When the house is too quiet and the dark presses against the windows. "I know you're up here." What if he really did? And what if he still does? What would you do if someone was already inside? My dad had a voice like a slammed door. He didn't hit, not really, but he made you feel like it might happen if you just said the wrong thing at the wrong time. My mom coped by cleaning. That was her drug of choice. Bleach and Pine Sol and endless furious scrubbing. And then there was my little brother Lucas, whose only volume setting was loud. He wasn't trying to be annoying, just a kid, a happy, chaotic kid. But even joy can grate when you're trying to disappear. So I learned to make myself small, to move quietly, listen more than I spoke, and never give anyone a reason to turn their attention my way. It stuck with me. I was never the loud girl in class, never the one dancing at parties. Even as I got older, I didn't go chasing after noise like everyone else. I wanted space, solitude, the kind that didn't have footsteps in the hallway or tension crackling in the air like a storm that never quite broke. At 19, I was still stuck in that same creaky house in Ferndale, Michigan. Not because I wanted to be. God knows I fantasized daily about running, but because money and guilt had a way of keeping you tethered. I worked part-time at a bookstore in town, did a few community college classes online, and mostly tried to stay invisible. But that weekend was different. My parents were finally leaving, headed to some cabin up north for their anniversary. A full 2 nights. No yelling, no vacuuming at 7 a.m., no Lucas bouncing a basketball off my door like it was cute. I told them I had homework. Couldn't miss it. It was a lie, of course. I was actually nursing the kind of hangover that makes you question every life choice you've ever made. The night before, Jordan threw this bonfire/farewell party in her backyard. End of summer, one last blowout before everyone scattered off to school or jobs or whatever fake plans made us feel grown. I drank too much trying to impress this guy who didn't even remember my name the next day. Shots of cheap vodka, warm beer, no food. The full rookie mistake. I came home around 3 a.m., stumbled through the door and collapsed on the bathroom floor. I didn't even make it to my bed. So when my mom knocked that morning and found me curled on the tile, I just grunted something about school deadlines and rolled over. She gave me that long-suffering look like she knew I was full of it, but didn't have the energy to argue. By 11 us, they were gone. Lucas shouted something dumb from the car. Dad barked his usual, "Lock the doors. No parties." I waved and shut the door, locked it with a satisfying click, and sank onto the couch with a bottle of ginger ale and one goal: move as little as humanly possible. But the thing was, as crappy as I felt, there was this flicker inside me. Not quite joy, but something close. A kind of giddy, strange peace. The silence didn't feel like an absence. It felt like air, like room to finally stretch. That's when I did something impulsive. I cut off all my hair. I'm not even sure why. It wasn't a cry for help or a fashion statement. Just this pull in my gut. I dragged myself to the junk drawer, found the scissors we used to cut coupons, and headed to the bathroom. My hair was long, past my shoulders. Same style I'd had since middle school, but as I stared at myself in the mirror, I didn't feel like that girl anymore. I felt raw, ready to shed something. So I started cutting. The strands hit the floor in limp clumps, uneven, jagged. It was a hack job, but I didn't care. Every snip felt like slicing through old layers I didn't need anymore. After, I stood in the steam of the shower until the mirror fogged and my skin turned pink. I used my mom's expensive face mask and queued up this weird, moody indie playlist I found online. For a second, I felt like someone else. Someone braver, cooler, detached. Still wrapped in that illusion, I stepped out into the hallway, naked. Not in a sexy way, just in a totally unself-conscious animal kind of way. Like shedding skin, like claiming space. The house was mine, and I let that sink in. And then I saw it. An open bag of pretzels on the kitchen counter, half eaten. I froze. My first instinct was that I was just too hungover to remember opening it. But I knew I hadn't. I hadn't eaten anything since last night. And then, beside the bag, I saw something worse. A note. Plain white paper. Folded once. No envelope. Just sitting there. Waiting. I moved toward it slowly, every cell in my body on alert, the kind of quiet that comes before something awful. The handwriting was scratchy, uneven, like someone had written fast or with shaking hands. I was going to leave you a letter, but I see that you're still here. That's all it said. For a long moment, I just stood there, water dripping from my hair onto the tile. I blinked, once, twice, trying to make the words go away. They didn't. My stomach flipped, my brain scrambled for answers. Maybe Lucas, a joke? But it didn't feel like him. The tone was wrong. There was nothing funny about it. It was clinical, observant, like someone had been watching, waiting for the house to be empty. And now they knew it wasn't. Then I heard it, a soft creak. Upstairs, just one step, enough to make the floorboard groan. I didn't move for a second, I couldn't. But then instinct kicked in. I bolted, ran barefoot down the hall, heart in my throat, skin still wet, hair sticking to my face. All I could think was, clothes. I need clothes. I'm not dying naked. When I reached my room, I stopped so fast I almost fell. There was someone already inside, A man, tall, late 20s maybe, dressed in black, hoodie, jeans. His hair was greasy, hanging in limp strands, his face pale, hollowed. But it was the smile that stopped me cold, slow, rehearsed, like he'd been practicing it in the dark. He didn't lunge, didn't speak, just smiled, and then he said, "Hey, Kayla." My knees locked, my throat sealed. No one called me that anymore. Not since high school. "Eric," I whispered. He nodded. "You look different." Eric Palmer. Jesus. We dated for maybe 3 weeks junior year. He was quiet, intense, kind of artsy. Wrote poems on napkins, carried a sketchbook everywhere. Back then I thought he was deep. Now he looked hollow, faded. He took a slow step forward, then did something bizarre. He reached down, picked up a folded pile of my clothes, jeans, tank top, even my underwear, and handed them to me. "Here," he said, and turned his back. That small gesture broke something in me. It felt surreal, like theater, like we were both pretending this was just an awkward reunion, not a break-in. I got dressed in silence, trembling so badly I dropped the jeans twice. When I was done, I sat on the edge of the bed. He joined me like it was normal. He started talking about high school, about how things made sense back then, how we had something real. He said he heard I was still in town and figured now was the time to say goodbye. He talked like someone narrating a memory that wasn't mine. I nodded, smiled politely, said nothing. For 2 hours we sat there, and then he stood up. "I should go," he said. "You probably have stuff to do." I didn't move, just nodded. He walked out. I waited until I heard the front door click shut before I collapsed to the floor and cried like I never had before. The police came fast, took fingerprints. They found him a week later, living under a fake name. Institutionalized, paranoid schizophrenia. No history of violence, they said. But that didn't matter, because he'd been in my house, watching, waiting, and I'll never stop wondering. How long was he there before I saw him? And more importantly, what if I hadn't been? What scares you more? The stranger outside, or the one already inside who thinks they know you? I was 17 the first time I came back to that house after we moved. 2 years after the break-in. 2 years of therapy, of alarms and locks, of sleeping with a bat by the bed. The house was still there, quiet, pale, too clean, like it was waiting to be lived in again. But that day I only drove past it. I couldn't bring myself to stop. It's strange how a place can carry silence like a memory. That silence doesn't just fill rooms. It presses into your chest, into your ribs, like something alive. When I was 15, that house didn't scare me. I liked the quiet. I liked the way it made me feel like I had space to breathe, to think. But I didn't know then what fear actually was. Not the kind in movies with a scream and a sudden cut to black. I mean the real thing. The slow kind that creeps in while you're not paying attention. The kind that waits. My parents bought the house in Westbrook Hollow during the second year of the pandemic. Not brand new, but freshly renovated. Cream siding, modern kitchen, big yard. Too big for just the three of us. It was one of those houses people dream about when they're trapped in tiny apartments. The neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet. The lots were spaced far apart, and the only people close by were the Murdochs, an elderly couple who mostly stayed inside. Dad worked trauma shifts at a hospital in Ashton. Mom did surgical scheduling at the same place. 12-hour days weren't uncommon, 14 sometimes. That meant I was alone a lot. I didn't mind. I was independent. I liked the autonomy. I liked cooking for myself, listening to music loud, staying up late watching Netflix with the volume down low. It felt like I was practicing adulthood, but something about that house never felt right. The basement, especially. It wasn't haunted or anything dramatic like that. Just off. Sound didn't travel well down there, and the air always seemed heavier somehow. My parents talked about turning it into a gym or a rec room, but nothing ever happened. Life got busy, and the space just stayed empty. The day it happened was a Thursday in early October. I'd gone home from school early with a migraine, the kind that makes light feel like glass in your eyes. By late afternoon, the pain had dulled enough that I could stand. I made eggs and toast, curled up on the couch with a hoodie pulled tight, and lost myself in some game or YouTube spiral. Eventually, I dozed off. When I woke, it was still light out. That strange orange kind of light that turns everything a little alien, like the sun forgot how to set properly. The living room was quiet. Too quiet. But there was a sound. Soft. Deliberate. Not loud enough to startle me. Just wrong. Plastic shifting. Then a soft clink. Then the sound of the refrigerator door closing. My blood went cold. No one was supposed to be home. I stayed low, heart pounding, peeking into the hallway. That's when I saw her. She stood in the kitchen like she lived there, barefoot, dirty, wearing cut-off jeans and a stained tank top like she'd just climbed out of a gutter. Her skin was dry and pale, pulled tight across her frame. Her hair hung in greasy clumps. She moved slow, like she wasn't hiding anything. She took a bottle of water from the fridge, opened it, took a sip. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I backed away and bolted for the stairs, mind racing. My bedroom window. That was the only way. The window was unlocked, thank God. I'd never cared before, but in that moment, it saved me. I opened it and jumped. The fall wasn't far, but I landed hard, pain spiking up through my ankle. Still, I didn't stop. I limped across our yard, through the patchy grass and gravel to the Murdoch's house. I pounded on their door like the world was ending. Mr. Murdoch opened it almost immediately. He saw my face and didn't ask a single question, just pulled me inside. His wife appeared behind him, eyes wide, hand covering her mouth. He handed me the phone. I could barely hold it. 911. What is your emergency? There's someone in our house, I said. She's still inside. The cops came fast, 6, maybe 7 minutes, long enough for me to go numb. They went in with guns drawn, lights flashing. I sat on the porch with a bag of frozen peas pressed to my ankle, staring into the fading twilight. When they brought her out, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. Just walked between the officers like she was walking out of a grocery store. A young cop took my statement. He looked barely older than me. His hands were shaking. She's lucky you weren't asleep longer, he said. What do you mean? He hesitated. She was upstairs, he said, standing right outside your bedroom, holding one of your kitchen knives. That sentence did something to me, broke something. I sat there, staring out at the yard, trying to remember how to breathe. That night, my mom cried so hard her face swelled. My dad walked the perimeter with a bat and a flashlight. The basement door had been forced open, the one we never used. The woman was a drifter, they said, squatting in empty houses, slipping into unlocked doors. She'd been seen in the area before, probably mentally ill. They said I was lucky, but that's not how it felt. Weeks passed. We got security cameras, a new door, a deadbolt for every entrance. But the fear stayed. It lived in the walls. It lived in me. I checked closets before bed, stacked books against the door, slept with a flashlight under my pillow. Nothing ever happened again. Not for a long time. Then last month, while I was home visiting from college, I joked about it over coffee with my mom. Remember that night? I asked. She froze, set her mug down gently, took my hand across the table. There's something I never told you, she said. My stomach turned cold. After the police left, one of the officers pulled your dad aside. He said she'd been in the house for hours. They found one of our bottles half empty on the coffee table. They think she came in while you were asleep on the couch, sat in the living room, used the bathroom, walked around, just watched you. She wiped her eyes. There's more, she whispered. One of the neighbors had a doorbell cam. It showed her the day before walking up our driveway and standing there for nearly an hour, watching, waiting. They think she was learning our routine, planning the break-in. She picked that day because she knew I'd be at work. Your dad would be on a double. You'd be alone. She had a plan, my mom said. She knew exactly what she was doing. We moved after that. Gated neighborhood, closer neighbors. It helped a little. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll still wake up to a sound. Plastic shifting, a soft clink, the creak of a fridge door. And I'll lie there in the dark, frozen, heart racing, praying that silence stays unbroken. Because now I know. It's not always strangers in the dark you need to fear. Sometimes it's the ones already inside. And here's what I keep asking myself years later. If she'd made it into my room that night, would anyone have ever known the truth? Or would I have just been another mystery? I'll begin now with the fully rewritten story. If at any point you want to make changes, additions, or shift the tone, just say the word. I was 10 years old the summer we left everything we knew behind and moved to Larkspur Creek, a nowhere town off a back highway where the air always smelled faintly of dry pine and sun-baked asphalt. It wasn't one of those big life changes that gets talked about for years. We moved because we had to. My dad got a better job loading freight at a warehouse an hour out, and it came with just enough extra money to get us into a house with more space. We weren't better off. We were just trying. We'd lived in a cramped rental on the outskirts of the city before, where the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbor sneeze, and every night was a symphony of dogs barking and sirens in the distance. Larkspur was the opposite, quiet to the point of discomfort. Too many trees, too few people. At night, the silence felt thick, like something pressing against your ears. We moved into a house on Sycamore Lane, corner lot, peeling cream siding, and a narrow porch that leaned so hard to the left it looked like it might give out. It had that leftover smell you only notice in old places. Mildew, mothballs, and maybe a little regret. But it had a yard, and stairs, and bedrooms with doors. For us, that was enough. There were 5 of us. My mom, my dad, my sisters Natalie and Amber, and me. Natalie was 16 and angry in a way only teenage girls can be. She wore eyeliner too dark and made everything feel like a personal insult. Amber, 14, lived inside her headphones. If her phone died, it was like watching someone lose oxygen. Me? I was the youngest. Quiet, careful, drawn to dinosaurs and PlayStation and books with monsters I didn't have to fight myself. The first few days in the new place were spent wading through boxes, figuring out what went where. I remember the heat most of all. That sticky, breathless kind that clings to your skin. Mom looked exhausted before noon every day. Dad tried to stay upbeat, even as he wrestled mismatched furniture and grunted his way through IKEA instructions. That first night, we sat on the living room floor eating delivery pizza off paper plates while the sun dipped behind the trees. The house echoed when we talked. Our voices didn't belong to the walls yet. It didn't feel like home. Not then. Not really ever. I laid out my sleeping bag in my new room and stayed up watching cartoons on a little boxy TV we hadn't figured out where to put. It was the first time I'd ever had my own room. No bunk bed, no whispered complaints from a sibling. I thought I'd love it. I didn't. There was something off about the house. The way the floors creaked, even when no one was walking. How the windows shook slightly even when the wind outside was still. I didn't have words for it at the time. Just a feeling, like the house was holding its breath, waiting. I started noticing the little things first, the odd patterns in the noise of the pipes at night, the hallway light flickering sometimes, but only when I was alone. But I convinced myself it was just nerves. New place, new town, everything unfamiliar. That changed the third night. It was late, past midnight. I was on the floor of the family room, deep into a game I'd borrowed from the neighbor's kid. Jack and Daxter, something mindless with bright colors and goofy voices. Dad passed through on his way to bed, drying his hands on a dish towel. "You still playing that thing?" he asked. "Just a little longer," I muttered, not looking up. He ruffled my hair on his way out. "Don't stay up all night." "I won't." The house slowly folded into silence after that. A toilet flushed somewhere upstairs. The fridge kicked on. Then nothing. And then something. It was faint, a crunch, like someone stepping on gravel or brittle leaves. Not inside, just outside the window behind the TV. At first I thought I imagined it. I muted the TV and sat completely still. The only light in the room came from the screen. Everything else was just black glass. Then I saw it. Movement. A flicker in the reflection on the window. Something passing by. Too close. I didn't see a face. Just the outline of someone. A person. Walking right past the window like they belonged there. Like they were checking something. I stood up slowly, one foot after the other, each muscle in my legs stiff and unwilling. I crept into the kitchen. There's a window above the sink. From there you can see the backyard clearly. The moon was out. The swing set that came with the house was still. The grass swayed, but nothing else moved. I was about to breathe again when I heard it. Rattle. The sound of the back door handle being jiggled. Not once, not maybe. Clearly. I froze. Rattle again. Deliberate. Not a knock, not a mistake. They were trying to get in. I didn't think. I ran, bolted. My heart was in my throat, breath coming in short bursts as I tore up the stairs and into my parents' room. "Dad! Someone's trying to open the door." He jerked awake, stunned for a second, then moving faster than I'd ever seen. He grabbed the aluminum bat from the hallway closet, the one he always joked about as our security system. My mom was asking questions I couldn't answer. I couldn't talk. My hands were shaking too hard. Downstairs, he flipped on the floodlight. And that's when we saw him. A man, running, across our backyard. Dark clothes, hunched low, vaulting over the fence and vanishing into the line of trees that bordered the end of the yard. My dad unlocked the door, stepped outside, jaw clenched tight. There were scratches just beneath the handle. Thin, jagged, fresh. Something had tried to pry the lock. Not to steal, to get inside. That night, none of us slept. And I stopped feeling safe in that house. Completely. A month passed before he came back. It was a Saturday night. My parents were across town. Natalie was sleeping over at a friend's house. Just Amber and me at home. She was upstairs, headphones in, watching something on her tablet. I'd just microwaved a frozen pizza and was loading up another game when I heard the motion light click on. It's a sharp sound, mechanical, not easily mistaken. I paused everything. Mute. Stood up slowly, crouched near the curtain and peeked. At first nothing. Then I saw him, near the tree line, just standing, not moving, not hiding, just watching. No mask, no weapon I could see, just the same posture. Still, intent. He wanted to be seen. I ran upstairs and banged on Amber's door. "Someone's in the yard." She yanked off her headphones, confused, until she saw my face. Then she was moving fast. By the time we got back downstairs, he was gone. Like before, the police came, more flashlights, more notes. But the ending was always the same. Nothing stolen, nothing broken, just watched, just wanted in. We never found out who he was. We never knew what he wanted. But I'll never forget the way it felt. To know someone was trying to get in, not for what we had, but maybe for who we were, or what we represented, or maybe just because he could. Years went by. We stayed. Cameras, locks, bars. None of it ever felt like enough. And I still think about that night. I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't heard the handle, if we hadn't seen him. If you lived in a house where someone once tried to come in, not to rob you, not to hurt you, but simply to be inside, could you ever really call it home again? Or would you always sleep with one ear open, waiting for the click of a handle in the dark? What do you think he was really there for? You don't realize how thin the wall is between ordinary and terrifying until you're on the wrong side of it. I was 21 when I moved into my first apartment, thinking I'd finally stepped into the adult world. Independence tasted sweet. I didn't have much, just a hand-me-down couch, a chipped microwave, and the kind of mattress you only buy because it's on sale. But I was proud. My place was a small ground-floor one-bedroom in a quiet cul-de-sac neighborhood called Brookhaven Terrace. Rent was cheap. The grass got cut every other Tuesday, and the streets were calm enough that the loudest thing at night was the wind in the trees. My parents weren't thrilled that I picked a unit with a window so close to the ground, but I waved off their concerns. I'd lived a pretty uneventful life up to that point. No close calls, no brushes with danger. I figured bad things happened to other people. People who lived in worse neighborhoods, people who didn't pay attention. I was cautious but not paranoid. I kept my doors locked, sometimes checked behind the shower curtain, but that was about it. I worked evenings at a coffee shop just off the main road, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night except Tuesdays. It was an easy rhythm. Come home, shower, snack, unwind. I had no roommates, no pets, and no responsibilities outside of showing up to work and paying my bills on time. Most nights I fell asleep watching YouTube videos, the soft blue glow of my laptop lulling me to sleep. I had a routine, and routines make you feel safe, until they don't. This night started like any other. It was late spring, warm in that sticky way that clings to your skin after sundown. My apartment didn't have AC, so I left the bedroom window cracked open like always. The screen was flimsy, but it snapped in place, and the fence outside blocked the view from the street. I felt fine. I even remember lying there thinking how peaceful it was, how lucky I felt. That was the last night I ever felt that way. The smell hit me first. Not a noise. Not a movement. A smell. Sharp and bitter, the scent of cigarette smoke crept into my room like a slow, crawling hand. At first, I thought maybe it was drifting in from upstairs. My neighbor sometimes smoked on his balcony, but this was different. It was strong, fresh, too close. It didn't smell like a distant whiff. It smelled like someone was right there. My eyes opened. Everything in me wanted to believe I was imagining it. Maybe it was a leftover scent from earlier. Maybe someone walked past. Then I heard it. A soft scrape, like fingernails or something, rough brushing wood. And then a breath. Not mine. Just an exhale. Controlled. Intentional. My heart stopped. I turned to the lamp on my nightstand, trying to keep my hand steady. My fingers brushed past the switch and landed on something warm. Flesh. A shoulder. I jerked back so hard I almost fell out of bed. There was a man. A stranger. Sitting on the edge of my bed, half in shadow, shirtless and smoking like he owned the place. His eyes were wide, not in panic, but in stillness. They didn't blink, didn't shift. His lips curled slightly like he found the situation amusing. He took another drag, and the orange glow lit up the dark hollows under his eyes. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. I remember whispering, "Who the hell are you?" But my voice barely came out. "Get out." He tilted his head, smiled like I'd asked him if he wanted coffee. "Didn't mean to wake you." Those words scared me more than if he'd screamed. He said them casually, like he was apologizing for knocking something off the counter. I screamed then. I shoved him as hard as I could. My voice finally came back full force, loud, angry, desperate. "Get out. Get the hell out." He stumbled backward, startled but not scared, and before I could get up, he darted toward the window. In one smooth movement, he pulled the screen off and disappeared into the night like he'd done it 100 times before. I slammed the window shut, heart beating so fast I could barely hold the lock. I dragged my heavy bookcase across the floor, wedged it against the frame, and just stood there staring, waiting, listening. When I finally got the courage to look outside, the screen was sitting neatly on the grass, intact, not bent, not broken. He'd taken it off like it was nothing. That's what kept replaying in my head. He didn't fumble. He didn't panic. He knew exactly how to get in and out without a sound, like he'd practiced. I called the police. They came, took a report, said there'd been a few reports of prowlers in the area but nothing specific. The officer asked if I had any enemies or angry exes. I didn't. My landlord shrugged when I told him, "Just keep your windows shut," he said. "It's not a great idea to leave them open anyway." I started sleeping with a bat beside my bed after that, put a chair under the doorknob, stopped using the bedroom window altogether, but none of it really helped. I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't gone, that maybe he was still watching, waiting. 2 weeks later, I found out I was right. It was a Saturday morning, a little after 10. I was off work and still in my pajamas, gaming in the living room on my desktop. That old habit from home stuck with me, never put electronics in the bedroom. I was deep in a match, headphones on, completely absorbed, when something made me pause. A faint click. At first, I thought it came from the game, but then I heard the front door creak. Slowly, deliberately. I spun around in my chair. The door was open, wide open. I called out, "Mom? Dad?" thinking maybe they'd surprise me with a visit. No response. I checked my phone, texts from both confirming they were still out of town. Every nerve in my body fired at once. I grabbed the closest object I could find, a metal tumbler, and crept toward the door. I peeked outside. No one, no cars, just still air and empty sidewalks. I shut the door, locked it, deadbolted it, then just stood there. Then came the sound that made my stomach turn. A zipper. Faint, from down the hall. My bedroom. I should have run, should have bolted outside. But I didn't. I moved, slow and shaky, toward my room, the hallway stretching out like a tunnel. The door was cracked. I pushed it open gently. Everything looked normal, except the garment rack I'd been using since my closet had started molding. It was turned just slightly, off angle, another zip. I walked closer, holding my breath. Reached for the fabric cover with a trembling hand. I tugged it open just an inch and saw his face. He was crouched inside, holding a knife. His eyes locked on mine, and he whispered, "Hey." I ran. No scream, no hesitation, just raw instinct. I slammed the door, sprinted to the living room, grabbed the house phone, and flew outside. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my keys twice trying to lock the door behind me. I dialed 911 from the driveway, crying, barely able to form words. The police came fast, guns drawn. They went inside while I stood frozen in the street, still barefoot. I'll never forget the sight of them walking him out. Same man, same blank stare, this time in handcuffs. One of the officers told me they found him checking every room, like he was looking for me. And it wasn't the first time he'd done something like this. I don't know what he wanted. I don't know how many times he watched me before getting in. What I do know is that I moved the hell out the next week. I don't live on the ground floor anymore. I don't leave windows open. I don't sleep without locking every door and double-checking every closet. I used to think monsters weren't real. That fear was a thing you grew out of. But now I know better. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If someone was quietly living in your space, hiding in plain sight, would you even know? Because I almost didn't. You ever think about how silence can be loud? Not in a poetic metaphor kind of way, I mean real, honest silence. The kind that settles in your bones, that wraps itself around your ribs like it's trying to keep something out, or maybe hold something in. That's the kind of quiet I grew up with, a quiet that hums beneath your skin. That's what it's like out here, always has been. I live a few miles outside a town called Wren Hollow, Missouri. It's barely a town. One blinking light, 2 gas stations with pumps older than I am, a high school that turns into a community center on weekends, and a Dollar General where half the county seems to gather whether they need anything or not. My place sits about a quarter-mile off the road, swallowed by trees. It used to belong to my aunt who passed 3 winters back. She left it to me with a handwritten note that just said, "This place stays in the family. Take care of it." I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I did. The house is simple. Ranch style. 2 bedrooms. 1.5 baths. The living room has these big old windows that face the woods. Nice during the day, eerie at night. My aunt never upgraded a thing. Still had a rotary phone in the kitchen and a radio with tinfoil wrapped around the antenna. Her pantry was a doomsday prepper's dream. Canned beans from the Clinton administration and enough bottled water to fill a pool. I thought it was weird when I moved in, but now I kind of get it. Out here, you don't wait on help. You are the help. That night, I wasn't expecting anything more exciting than indigestion. I'd spent the better part of the afternoon clearing up the yard, mostly dragging off branches from the last storm. Took a long shower, threw on sweats, and slid a frozen pizza in the oven. By 10, I was burrito wrapped in a fleece blanket, watching a murder doc on low volume. My phone was somewhere on the coffee table, forgotten. No one was texting. It was my night off, and I planned to rot in peace. I remember looking at the clock around 1:15 a.m. I wasn't sleepy. Never am on my nights off. Maybe it's the residual rhythm from working swing shifts. Maybe it's just how I'm wired. The house was quiet except for the occasional crack of the wood stove and the muted flicker of the TV. I was just settling into that numb, blank-minded state when I heard it. A noise, sharp, close. Not loud enough to be glass-breaking, but wrong enough to snap me alert. I muted the TV and sat up. Another sound, 3 heavy thuds, not knocks, not someone being polite. It sounded like someone slamming their whole weight against the front door. My stomach sank. For a moment I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Then I stood up slowly, the blanket dragging behind me like a cape. There's a small warped glass window in the center of the door. Makes anyone outside look melted. I took a step forward, squinting. Someone was there. Not Cole. That was my first thought. Cole's my ex. We've been breaking up and making up since 2022. He's shown up before, drunk, loud, sometimes crying. But this wasn't him. This man was older, grayer. He had a wild beard, uncombed hair, and eyes that seemed too wide and too wet. He was swaying on his feet, mumbling something under his breath. His fists were clenched. He wasn't knocking. He was demanding. "Let me in," he shouted suddenly, his voice booming against the glass like a whip crack. I stepped back. My body finally caught up to what my mind had already decided. This wasn't someone I knew, and he wasn't okay. No cell service. That fact punched me square in the chest. Out here, once you leave town, the bars disappear. Wi-Fi? Forget it. I didn't even bother checking my phone. I already knew it would be useless. My aunt's cordless landline was my only shot. I darted into my bedroom where the base sat on my nightstand, but when I hit the green button, nothing. Dead. Just a blank screen and the sharp kind of silence that makes you want to scream. I crouched by the doorframe, listening. The man was still out there, yelling now, pounding on the door like he meant to cave it in. I could hear him pacing, muttering, scratching something against the wood. "I know you're in there," he growled. I wanted to scream back, wanted to tell him to go to hell. But I didn't. I crept back into the hallway, heart racing, and ducked into the bathroom. Locked the flimsy twist lock and climbed onto the counter like a child hiding from a monster under the bed. I held the biggest kitchen knife I had in both hands, blade out, elbows locked. He didn't stay at the front door. I could hear him walking around the house. Every few seconds he'd try a window. Tap, tap, rattle. Sometimes he whispered things, words I couldn't quite make out. Other times he growled, "Open up. Just let me in. Just cold out here." There was something wrong with his voice. It didn't rise and fall like normal speech. It scraped. It rasped like sandpaper on bone. My arms were trembling from holding the knife so tight, but I didn't dare move. Then I remembered. The other phone. The one in the kitchen by the back door. I waited until I heard him stomp back toward the front. Then I ran barefoot, knife in one hand, adrenaline in the other. Slid into the kitchen, grabbed the phone off the cradle, and dropped behind the counter. Dialed 911 with shaking fingers. It rang once. Then, 911, what is your emergency? There's a man outside, I whispered. He's trying to get in. I don't know him. I live near Wren Hollow, off Highway 9, near the old quarry. Please, he's hitting the doors. The dispatcher's voice was calm, trained. Officers are en route, but it may take 15 minutes. Can you stay hidden? Yes, I said. My voice cracked. I think so. She stayed on the line, talked to me the whole time, gave me small updates, told me to breathe, to stay low, to keep quiet. The man outside didn't stop. At one point I heard him throw something, maybe a rock, against the siding. It hit with a sickening smack. He laughed after, a broken, choking laugh that made my skin crawl. And then, headlights, shouts. Sheriff's department, step away from the house. The dispatcher's voice changed, softer now. They've got him. You're safe. You can come out. When I finally opened the door, I saw him, kneeling in the dirt, hands cuffed behind him, covered in mud and twigs like he'd been crawling through the woods. He was still muttering, still laughing. One of the deputies walked over to me and said he'd come from a bonfire down the road, got lost, thought my house was someone else's, just a drunk guy, just a mistake. But it didn't feel like a mistake. Not the way he slammed the door, not the way he spoke, not the way he laughed like something inside him had broken years ago and never healed. Now I keep that landline charged, I keep a hammer under the couch, and I added a deadbolt to my bedroom door. Because once you've seen someone's shadow against your window in the middle of the night, once you've heard their fists on your door and their voice twisting through your walls, you don't forget. You change. So here's the question that's stuck with me since that night. If help takes 15 minutes and horror is already at your door, what do you really rely on to survive?